In just a few years, migration into Europe has shifted from a manageable demographic trend into a structural economic challenge. Not because migration itself is new, but because the scale, speed, and timing of it collide directly with Europe's weakest economic moment in decades. Germany, once the engine of Europe, now sits at the center of this collision. And the question is no longer whether migration affects the economy, but whether the current model is sustainable at all. Why migration became an economic issue. For years, migration was framed as a long-term solution to Europe's demographic decline. Europe is aging, birth rates are falling, the workforce is shrinking. On paper, migration looked like the perfect fix. More people, more workers, more taxpayers. But this logic only works under very specific conditions, and most of them no longer exist. The reality is that Europe is absorbing large numbers of migrants during a period of economic slowdown, housing shortages, and fiscal tightening. That changes everything. Germany's bet. No country embraced this strategy more openly than Germany. Germany didn't just accept migration, it built policy around it. The assumption was simple: Germany needed workers. Migrants would fill labor gaps. Economic growth would absorb the cost. For a while, this appeared to work. Germany's economy was strong. Unemployment was low. Public finances were stable. But the system depended on continuous growth, and that growth has stalled. The economic timing problem. Migration is not free. In the short term, it increases housing demand, welfare spending, education and integration costs, administrative and security expenses. These costs are manageable only when tax revenues are rising. Germany now faces the opposite: slowing GDP growth, industrial contraction, higher energy prices, rising public debt. This creates a timing mismatch. The costs arrive immediately. The benefits, if they arrive at all, take years. Labor market reality. One of the most misunderstood aspects of migration is labor market integration. The idea that migrants instantly become productive workers is economically unrealistic. Barriers include language, certification, skills, mismatch, regional labor shortages not matching migrant settlement areas. As a result, many migrants remain outside the labor force for years. Others enter low productivity sectors. Tax contributions lag far behind public spending. This doesn't mean migration can't work. It means it cannot replace economic growth. The housing bottleneck. Housing is where the economic tension becomes visible. Germany already suffered from under-construction long before migration accelerated. Now, demand has surged. Supply remains rigid. Construction costs are high. Interest rates have crushed new development. The result is simple economics. Prices rise, rents surge, social friction increases. Housing scarcity turns migration from an abstract policy into a daily reality for voters. Political economy. Shift. Economic stress always reshapes politics. When growth is strong, redistribution feels painless. When growth stalls, every euro becomes contested. Migration shifts from an economic argument to a fiscal one. Who pays? For how long? And what happens if growth never returns? This is where political consensus breaks, not because societies suddenly become less tolerant, but because economic buffers disappear. Why this is different from the past: Europe has absorbed migration before. The difference today is structural. Previous waves occurred during, under modern, industrial expansion, cheap energy, globalization, tailwinds. Today, Europe faces deindustrialization, energy constraints, aging populations, global fragmentation. Migration is no longer additive to growth. It competes with limited resources. The fiscal trap governments now face a difficult choice: increase spending to support integration, or cut spending elsewhere. But taxes are already high. Debt levels are rising. Political tolerance for austerity is low. This creates a fiscal trap. Without growth, integration costs accumulate. Without integration, social and economic returns shrink.